Hey guys, Wrestling Rambles 89 back again today with another reaction video. This time I'll be reacting to Buff Bagwell claiming that Jim Ross ruined his WWE career. So yeah, the infamous WCW invasion thing, which was a big letdown. Pretty much the most infamous moment of all was probably this match with Buff Bagwell. And I'm curious to hear why he's blaming Jim Ross for why his career in WWE was so short and didn't go anywhere. So yeah, without wasting any more time, let's get started.
And it's something that make you a little uncomfortable, but you know, it's the Jim Ross part of the story of the documentary.
No, you're not going to make me uncomfortable at all because I read that there was some heat between you guys. What had happened?
Just between me and you, Steve, I am 100% convinced, whether I'm right or wrong, that Jim Ross ruined my career. And how that came down, unfortunately, is there's only three witnesses, and it's Jim, God, and me. But I was sitting home one day, and what had happened was we were down at wrestling school at WWE, WWF at the time, and we were learning the ring ropes and all that, the 20-foot ring and all that stuff. And I got in an argument with Shane Helms, and I ended up slapping him. And after I slapped him, and I turned around to walk off, he hits me with an ice bottle that was frozen that opened up my head 20 stitches deep.
Damn.
And all the wrestlers, keep in mind, at that stage, there were 12 WCW guys hired. And at the 12 being hired, you know, everybody back then thought for sure Buff Bagwell's got a job. He's got a job. We're just trying to make it. He's got a job. Now, I hoped and wished, but that's how everybody else looked at it. Okay. Well, here is Shane Helms holding the rag on my head, crying, telling me he's sorry. And the wrestlers actually convinced me, with cell phones out, that to lie and say that I fell. And I said, guys, y'all know there's no way this is going to stay hidden. There's no way. Well, I do what the wrestlers asked me, and I said I fell to, I'll never forget it, it was to Fit Finley and Laurinaitis. And I said we fell. I said I fell. I slipped and hit my head, and they knew I was lying, but they didn't see it, so they didn't know what had happened. And so I just went ahead with it, and I flew straight home. I didn't ask for WWF. I didn't ask them to fix my head or go to their doctor. I did my own money, my own insurance to keep the heat down from everything. And all of a sudden, I came back to Raw the following Monday, and when I showed up, after being told everything I was told and Shane Helms crying and everything, I see Shane Helms and the Hardy Boys coming at me, and I said hello to them, and none of them waved and none of them said hello. And as soon as I saw that, I went straight to Laurinaitis, and I said, brother, here's the deal. And I told him the whole story. I said, here's what happened. Here's what's going on. Well, he got all 12 guys together, made us all apologize, shake hands, because at this stage, he's trying to have a job. Right. He's got 12 guys he's got to get over to, WWF. So we all shook hands and did the whole thing and got everything together. And so we go out and have the match. And from there, we just really thought that, everything was going to be okay. And then, once the match happened with everything,
I'm wondering where
Jim Ross after the match happened, it was a bad match. We kind of stumbled over each other. We didn't have a good match. And me and Booker's had 10,000 barn burners. We actually had a kind of a bad match. And that night, believe it or not, WWF took the blame. They said, you know what? It's our fault. Pat does the main events, and we thought he was going to talk to you guys. And Johnny Laurinaitis has you guys, so we thought he was going to talk to you. Nobody talked to you guys, so y'all did the best you could. Don't worry about it. Let it go. The next week was Atlanta, Georgia. So on Friday, Jim Ross, God, and me are on the phone, and Jim Ross says, hey, buddy, just want you to know I want you to take the weekend off, which was Augusta and Birmingham, and then Atlanta, the Dome. And he said, take the weekend off, let your head heal. We got big plans for you at Phillips Arena on Monday in Atlanta. So I was like, thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate it. Well, the story got out, and it stuck like glue that my mother had called to get me out of those shows. Now, why in the hell would I cancel 2 shows after already working with stitches in my head when I had 2 drives when I'm trying to fit into the WWF 2 weeks being there? I'm kissing ass. I'm walking on eggshells. I'm shaking hands. I'm kissing babies. I'm trying to get in WWF and do it right. And so somehow or another, though, the mother story to this day sticks like glue.
Judy Bagwell.
And so we go out and do the whole deal. I show up, get to the building, and they fire me. And I didn't even know I had to raise my hand. And when they get me in the room, I raise my hand, and Vince goes, "You don't got to raise your hand, Mark." I said, "Well, I said I feel like I do." I go, "It sounds like y'all are firing me." And Vince goes, "Oh no, we're not firing you." He said, "We're releasing you." and I raised my hand again. And he goes, "Mark, I already said you ain't got to raise your hand." I said, "But what's the difference in firing and raising? I mean, and releasing?"
Right.
And he said, and the son of a bitch had an answer. He said, "Well, if we fire you, we got to redo your contract." He said, "And if we release you, we can bring you back in 3 months and no problems, and you just start back up with us." And so at that stage,
easy, basically,
I knew they were full of shit. God bless them.
Yeah.
But I also knew to start smiling, shaking hands, and just leave. And I did so. I started shaking hands, kissing babies, and realized it was just best to, get out of there. And I got in my car, bawled and crying, and I called up, my parents. They were in the stands, and I said, it's time for you guys to come on home. And they were like, "What do you mean?" I go, "I'm home. It's over.
I'm not in the building anymore."
Yeah, I'm not in the building there, so y'all can come home too.
So you're maintaining that Jim Ross set you up? Did your mother ever make those phone calls?
Absolutely not. Mother never made those phone calls. And I even went the route like anybody else would. I even went the route, okay, let's go the route that my mom slipped up and made the phone calls. Now let's go this route.
Okay.
Why would you do the invasion of Booker T and Buff Bagwell in Tacoma, Washington, when the next week you're in Phillips Arena? Why wouldn't you just wait a week and put Buff Bagwell versus Booker T at the Phillips Arena in Ted Turner's backyard?
That does make sense.
So to me, it all made sense. We knew even up in Tacoma, why are we wrestling when next week's Atlanta? But to me, it all kind of made sense. But let's be truthful to each other. Did my mom make the calls? Could she have? Absolutely. Do I think she did? Absolutely not. But I really believe with all my heart that that Jim Ross really, really, really took his time out, and even took time on the round table with all the legends, and took his time out to bury me and say that, I showed up at these shows, and I just don't know where that hatred come from for him to want to take that much time out to really, and I'm talking about, how Jim was, he loved football players and athletes. We talked every week when he was at WCW about
did he bury you to the higher-ups?
I don't know. I really don't know what happened. I just know that, and I did what they told me to do. They said in 3 months, call us back. And I waited about 2 weeks past the 3 months. And so it wasn't right at 3 months. And when I called Jim Ross, he literally answered the phone with a deep breath. And I swear to God, I went, "Jim, I'm just calling back because you told me to." I said, and he said, and he didn't call me Bub. He went, "Yeah, Mark, I said, Jim, I'm just calling you back because you guys told me to call you in 3 months. I waited 2 weeks longer than that, and I'm just calling you back. And he said, Mark, we'll call you if we need you. And hung the phone up on me.
Cut and dry, that's all.
Cut and dry, and that was it, brother.
I mean, that was definitely interesting. I'm not sure how the hatred thing from Jim Ross came to be. Like, why even think that? Jim Ross didn't sound to be anything involved. It's more John Laurinaitis, if anything. But yeah, definitely interesting. An interesting story from Buff. How much of it is true and legit, I really don't know. Obviously, he's going to try and portray himself the best way he can. It made sense when he said, why didn't they wait? I mean, it was pretty much set to fail. I remember the match being pretty terrible, to be honest. And it was, yeah, I don't know about Booker and him having a million good matches or whatever thing he said. But it just seems to me, yeah, an interesting story. Did his mother cool? Of course, I don't know. But also, at the same time, Jim Ross just seems to be catching bullets here for something he basically had very little hand in. If John Laurinaitis was in charge of talent relations at the time, or at least one of the top guys, then it was either obviously going to be him or Vince McMahon. And Jim Ross, even at the end there, he said to give them a call back in however many weeks or months, and then he waited 2 weeks after that, which, yeah, that was strange too. But anyway, that's enough rambling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an upload. I try and upload new videos every day. This is Wrestling Rambles 89, signing off.